Hello and welcome. Today is December 14th, 2023, and we will be talking about rental property registration and fee payments for properties in the city of Mountain View that are covered by rent stabilization. My name is Andrea Kennedy, and I work for the city of Mountain View in our rent stabilization division. Before we get started, I just want to do a quick reminder that I'll not be able to give any sort of legal advice during this video, but I will be offering tips, best practices, and an overview of the city's actions regarding the CSFRA and the MHRSO for mobile homes and apartment rentals. All right, so quickly, I'll go over our agenda for today. So I'll be doing the presentation, and if there's anyone joining us on the line today, they can ask questions, and then I'll be pausing in between to answer any of those questions as they come up. All right, we'll talk generally about the CSFRA and the fee. So that is the rent stabilization that covers our apartment rentals. And then we'll also talk about the MHRSO and that fee. And so that's going to be rent stabilization that's covering our mobile homes in Mountain View. We'll go over what's expected for property registration, what the requirements are, what the compliance enforcement is, and how to file exemptions. And then finally, I'll jump right in to the registration tutorial, and that's really where we'll spend most of our time today. All right, so first let's talk about apartment rentals in the city of Mountain View. So we have the CSFRA, which stands for the Community Stabilization and Fair Rent Act. That was actually a voter-approved measure passed by the citizens of the city of Mountain View, and it's meant to stabilize the community by reducing housing turnover in certain types of covered rental units. And so it does that by limiting the amount of rent that can be increased, placing eviction protections on those units, and then finally ensuring that the property owner or the landlord gets a fair rate of return on their investment property. There we go. So who's covered? So most of our multifamily rental properties in the city are covered because they were built before the law went into effect, which was December 23rd, 2016. We have both fully and partially covered types of units in the city. Fully covered, both the rent limits and eviction protections apply. So those would be properties built before 1995, and then properties built between 1995 and when the law went into effect, those are partially covered and only eviction protections apply to those. However, I do want to mention that regardless of the coverage of the property, the fee is going to be the same that the landlord is responsible for paying. The annual fee, they're going to be the same for each type of covered unit. So since it's now December, next month we will be having our 2024 rental housing fee go into effect. So people will be receiving an invoice in the next couple of weeks, and then that will be expected to be paid by January 31st of 2024. So the CSFRA requires that our landlords pay an annual fee, and it's established by our rental housing committee. And it funds the reasonable and necessary expenses of implementing the program. So it pays for things like staff, that's where the majority of it goes, any of our third-party contractors, legal counsel, some hearing officers. We have a help center that we run, and we do a lot of these types of workshops and clinics. So it pays for all of those things. So for the current budget that was just passed, we divide the budget by the number of covered units in the city, And the 2024 rental housing fee is going to be $108 per unit. And again, that's due January 31st, 2024. And I'll show you something new this year is that you can actually pay this fee through the registration portal. So that's something new and exciting and hopefully makes things much easier for everybody. And I'll go through that during the tutorial. All right, so mobile homes they also have rent stabilization. So the MHRSO was actually it's actually an ordinance. So this was passed by our city council and not the voters. So it's a little bit different in that way, but it does the same things. It does the same goals here. And so there's two types of coverage for mobile homes. So we have coverage for mobile home owners, so people who own their mobile home and are renting the space. That space rent is covered by rent stabilization. And then we have mobile home renters who are actually renting the mobile home structure, the house. They're covered by rent stabilization as well. For the purposes of this webinar, I'm mostly going to be talking to mobile home park owners because you all are the ones required to register and pay the fee. So the mobile home space fee is very similar to the fee for our apartment rentals in that it's covering the reasonable costs for implementing the program. And so it's covering staff, our third-party contractors, and outreach. So it functions in much of the same ways. However, you'll notice here that the fee for our per space is going to be $300 per space for 2024. And this is going to also be due January 31st, 2024. All right, this is just a quick example of what the invoice will look like when you see it. So up in the this black box area here, we'll have the APN and PIN number, which you'll need if you're new to registering your property. So you'll see that information there. And then in this other box right underneath that, that will be the breakdown of your total as well. If you're planning to mail in your check, you want to be sure to include that bottom portion of the invoice when you're mailing it back to us, so we know what the payment should be applied for. All right, now let's talk about property registration for both apartments and mobile homes. So this is mandatory, so it's required, and it will be due every every January 31st of each year. So by February 1st, if registration has not been submitted and complete, it will be considered late. Also, I just want to be clear on that. There is an opportunity to file any exemptions specifically for our apartment rentals. If you're a landlord who lives in one of your units or your children's live in one of your units, or you have any duplexes on your property, you're going to want to file those exemptions every year. There's also certain information that needs to be updated regularly. So if you have a new tenant, if you have any termination notices you need to submit, or if you terminate a tenancy, sorry. And if you change the ownership or management contact information, you want to submit that within 30 days. And finally, there's also notices that are required to be submitted to the city, including termination notices, termination notice follow-up, banked rent increase notices, and tenant buyout agreement notices. They all have timelines on them. We'll go over some of them in the next slide, but just be aware you can upload those all online through your property registration profile. So sort of like a one-stop shop. All right, so I want to spend a little bit of time on termination notices, just so that everybody's clear on what the requirements are. So if you serve your tenant a termination notice, so that's anything from a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit, or if there's a nuisance issue, any type of notice. So within 3 days of serving that notice, you need to send a copy or upload a copy to the database. And I can show you how to do that when we get into the tutorial. Also, another thing that you must submit a copy of, if you serve your tenant with any unlawful detainer summons, an actual complaint of unlawful detainer, or if you receive a judgment for that unlawful detainer, anytime you receive or serve that paperwork on your tenant, you're going to want to file a copy with the city within 7 days. All right. And then lastly, if the tenant actually moves out on their own, or if they self-evict due to receiving a termination notice or UD filings or UD paperwork, they move out because of that, you want to notify the city within 7 days of the tenant vacating that unit. And so you can do all of that on the database, and I'll show you how when we get into it. All right, something that's relatively new is compliance and the enforcement penalties that we have. So we want to be sure that you're all aware of what they are so you can avoid them. All right. So any landlord or any mobile home park owner who fails to register their property or fails to pay the fee on time are considered substantially non-compliant with the CSFRA or the MHR, so whichever is applying to you. Right, and if you are out of compliance, you're not able to lawfully raise rent or file any petition for upward adjustment of rent. So some people might have seen that happen to them last year. If they had not been in compliance with their registration, the tenant might have either requested money back because it was an unlawful rent increase that was given to them, or they might be in the middle of filing a petition for an unlawful rent increase. So we want to be sure that we're in compliance, so all of our rent increases that we're giving are allowed, all right? So if you're found to be out of compliance, a couple of things could happen. So there will be a mailing of a non-compliance letter to the landlord. If it continues to be out of compliance, then another letter will go out, and a copy of that letter will be sent to the tenants, informing them that the property is out of compliance. And if they received any rent increases, they may have been unlawful. It's also publicly posted on the city's registration database at mvrent.mountainview.gov if a property is in compliance with registration and fee payment. So it's searchable to anybody in the public. So we want to be sure we're on top of that. All right, and then finally, there are fees and late penalties. So if you haven't paid your fee, it's a 4% per month charge on top of whatever the total is that you owe. That adds up very quickly. If you are late to register your property, it's a late penalty of $25 per unit per month. And that really adds up quickly. So hopefully we can try to avoid those. And if you have any questions, reach out as soon as you can so we can get you in compliance on time. All right, I'll very quickly go over eligible exemptions, and we're going to focus in here on apartment rent stabilized units, and we're not talking about mobile homes, but for apartment complexes. If you qualify for an exemption, you want to definitely submit that exemption request before you pay your fee because it reduces the cost by the per unit amount. So this year it's 108, and these must be filed every year. So again, if you are the landlord and you are occupying the unit as your primary residence, the unit can be exempt and reduce the fee. If it's your immediate family members, that's parent, that's spouse, that's child, then you can also reduce the fee. So you just have to file that exemption. If you have any duplexes on your property, also file that exemption. That one can be carried over year to year. So you don't have to do that one every year, but you want to do it initially. All right, so now we're going to jump into the registration tutorial bit. The first couple steps I have to do through the PowerPoint, just showing you how to make an account and how to register. And then I'm going to hop over to the website and actually just go through the process with you. So if you're brand new, if you've never created an account, you've never registered your property, that's going to be your first step. So the website is mvrent.mountainview.gov. So it's a different website than the City of Mountain View's official website. This is a specific rent stabilization landlord property registration website. All right, so when you log on, you'll see this picture here. And you want to click on the landlord icon as you are a landlord. If you already have an account, you can just put in your username, which is your email address, and the password that you already created, and it will get you right into your profile. If you've never done that before, you need to create an account. So we'll click this create an account link. And then it's going to ask you to set it up. So first name, last name, you need to use an email address. So you can use your business email address, your personal email address. Helpful tip, if you are going to use this for more than one staff person at your place of business, you might want to use a general email account so that more than one person can look at the property, because only one email user can claim a property at a time. All right, so that's just a helpful tip. And then you're going to want to create your password. So it has to be between 8 and 16 characters, contain a capital letter, a number, and a special character, exclamation point, asterisk, $sign, something like that. Once you do that, go ahead and click submit, and you'll have a little green box pop up at the bottom that says email verification pending. So that tells you that you need to go into the email inbox that you just signed up with, and you'll see a registration confirmation. It will come from this CAP support at 3disystems.com. That's not junk mail. 3DI Systems is the third party we use to create our database, so this is real. Go ahead and click into that email and then visit the link to activate your account. And then it should bring you back onto the website and let you know that you have successfully activated your account. And then you'll log back in like normal using your email and your newly created password. So that is how we create an account. And now I'm going to hop over to the internet and show you how to do the rest. All right, so I am on the test site. So everything you see on this site is going to be pretend. So you will be in the mvrent.mountainview.gov site, and I'm here in this MV Boot 3DI demo account. All right, let's get started. So first I'm going to click on my landlord icon here. I already have an account, so I'm just going to log directly in with my username and my password. This is our home page here. So what you'll see, if you're brand new, it will be blank other than this gray house. If you've been here before, your properties should load in just like this, and you'll be able to click into them that way. So I'm going to start off as if I have never been here before and I'm adding a new property. So let's say I am a new owner to a new property. I click add property here. Sometimes, especially if you're using Google, which I do recommend, using Google, it will auto-populate stuff for you in there, but just delete it. And then you'll type in your APN and your PIN number. Again, you'll find it on your invoice, or if you have trouble finding it, you can reach out to us over here at the city. But I'm gonna claim my property using my APN and my PIN. All right, so if you have a property name, you can type it in. If you don't, you can leave it blank. If you want to double check that you got your APN and PIN number right, you can click verify and it will come up down here. For me, that's correct. If you already know that it's right or you want to skip that step, you can just go ahead and click submit. All right, so it said successfully done. And now I can see here that my property at 258 Bush Street is on my property profile. So to get to register, I'll click in. I don't want to save that. And this will be the detailed information for this property. So it's broken down into a couple things here. So we'll see that I have a picture. If the picture is wrong, you can add your own new picture by clicking this button and upload your own picture. It will give you sort of an overview of how many units there are and the status of your registration. So right now it's open and we're missing all these things with the exclamation points. So we know we have some work to do. Site addresses are listed over here. A lot of times you'll only have one site address, but if you're one of those APNs that have more than one building and you want to add, say, I don't know, 258B Bush Street, Mountain View, 94041. Because you have two separate buildings, you can add that and they'll both show up here. And then you can add the units separately per each actual building. So it keeps it a little bit neater that way. So that's an option. The other thing you can look at over here are your fees summary. So you'll notice now that it's blank, but it does let you know that the fees will be calculated after the property registration is submitted. And this is because if you have any exemptions on your property, it's going to calculate that into your total due. And so we have to register first and then we can pay second. All right, so for the sake of this demonstration, I won't go into filing an exemption, but just know that it is a possibility. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do before I get started on entering my unit information is enter my contact information. So up at the top here, you have different tabs that you can go into. We want to go into the contacts tab because you can see there is an action that we need to do. Because there's an exclamation point, okay? So we need to enter in our contact information. And just as another helpful tip, all of your action buttons are going to be over to the right side of your screen. So whenever you want to do any sort of action in the system, look over to the right and there's usually a button or like a 3 dots menu or something like that. So we'll add contact owner information. I'm just going to quickly populate this with my information about my business. When did I buy it? How do I prefer to be contacted? email, mail. And if I scroll down, you can either use your mouse or there's a scroll bar here on the side. We want to put our home address. So this is where, oops. Yeah, and my mailing address is the same, right? It doesn't have to be. If it's different, you can type it in yourself. If it's the same, you can click same as home address and it will pop up. So wherever you want to get your updates about the program or your invoices sent, you want to make sure this information is always up to date. If you make any mistakes over here in the action, edit or delete. Okay. You see our exclamation point still there, so we still have something to do. We have to actually also include a manager contact information. So fill this out with whatever's right for your property. If you act as everything, you can click this box that says same as owner, and it will autofill that for you. And then you'll see now I have owner and manager, and my exclamation point is gone. Yeah, so we're all done on this tab. So let's go back to our address tab, which is our main tab. Now, if we scroll down past the first section, we have the unit summary. It's gonna just give us an overview of how many of each type of number of bedroom unit we have. It'll fill this in on its own. You don't have to worry about that. The one thing I want to point out to you that's new is that the system has sort of auto generated these unknown unit numbers. And it does that for people who have never registered before in order to be able to calculate your fee. So if this is your first time, you're gonna want to come in here and correct the information that is auto-populated. If you've done this before, all of your old information is still gonna be in here. You just need to update it. Okay. So I cut mine out into two different properties, so that's why you see two sections here. Because let's say they were two, I don't know, two triplexes and I wanted to have them separate, I could do that. Alrighty, so let's get started entering in our unit information. Now there's two ways to do that. You can do a bulk upload or you can do a per unit upload. So depending on the size of your property, depends on, which way you want to go. This is a smaller property here. So what I'll do is I'll just edit these one by one. So I'll click on the action menu on that unit and click edit. And then let's say my units are numbered or lettered A through C. So I'll update that. Is there a tenant in there? Yes. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. They moved in 2021. Let's say 2023. Date of last rent increase, you'll type that in. If they have never had one before, you want to type in the same date as the move-in date, okay? Current monthly rent. And then last monthly rent increase amount. So if they've never got one, that would be a 0, obviously. And percent, that would be a 0 if they've never had one. If they have had one last year and they got the full 5%, you can put that information in there. Then we'll click update. And then you'll see now that instead of unknown 1, it's gonna show the actual information for that unit, yeah? So you sort of carry on that way. I'll do these quick. And let's do C. Let's see. Then we have A, B, and C, and we have our unit information. You'll notice we don't ask for any of the tenant's personal contact information or a name or anything like that. Just sort of general information about the unit. If you have more than 3 units, let's say we have one single family on the property as well, we can add a unit that wasn't already listed by just clicking add unit and doing the same thing. Let's see, the owner, the house. Then we'll add. And so now we'll see we have a house here and then a triplex there in the back. That's how you do that individually. If you want to do a bulk upload, it's this add, update multiple units. So if you're brand new, you want to click add unit, download the fillable spreadsheet. And then you'd fill that out and save it and then upload it here. And we'll add. If it can be a little finicky, especially with formatting, so try to make your formatting match the example line as perfectly as you can. If you have trouble with it, let us know, we can help. If you've already done this before and you just want to update, you go and click over here, update existing units, download the spreadsheet. That will download you all of the information that's currently in your system, update that, and then you'll save it and upload it. However, there's a little caveat with this updating existing units. If you've had vacancies and new move-ins, you need to upload those on the individual level. The spreadsheet is really only good for updating rent increases. So if you've had someone move out and move in and they need new move-in dates, it's really better to just edit here on the per unit. Just so you know that. Alrighty. But now that we have a pretty good overview of what's happening on our property, we have all 4 of our units. If we wanted to do an exemption, we could click on the action menu and apply for the exemption here. But if we're all done, we can go ahead and review and submit using this red button here. And also a thing to note is that until you have this information filled out, this review and submit button is not going to show up for you. So if it's not there, you're missing something. And you should contact us if you can't figure it out, or just go back and double check. All right, so let's go ahead and review and submit. And then you'll see all the information as an overview. The system thought we had 3 units. We put in 4, so it's just going to alert us that our unit count doesn't match in case something's wrong. But as long as you have at 3, or if you have more units, it will still let you move forward with the process. So we'll say, okay, all my owner information, my manager information is correct. My unit information looks good. I'll go ahead and submit formally. Right, so here is a declaration statement that pops up, and it just wants to be double sure that you've applied for your exemptions before you're submitting your registration, because it will need that information to calculate your fee properly. So if you know that everything's correct, you can go ahead and click the box. If you need to go back, you can click the link and it will just take you back, and you can then submit that request. All right, so once we know that's good, we can declare that all that information is true and correct. We can put our name, we are the owners, and we'll submit. and this is where the exciting new part is. Now that we've submitted our registration, we can go ahead and pay our fee. So our status went from registration open, red, to payment pending, yellow. So now we know we've done part of it. And over in our fee summary section, we'll now see that we have our rental housing fee. We don't have any late fees and we don't have any non-registration fees because we are on time as we hope to be. And then we'll have our total here. We haven't paid yet and our balance due. All we have to do is click pay now. Would we like to proceed with payment? We sure would. I think I have my test card. Let's see. There it is. So we'll put in our card amount. Again, this is a fake card, so don't bother trying to use it for your Christmas presents. All right, and then let's type in this. And it will require that we pay the total amount. So that is our option. So we'll click pay $432. I don't want to save that. It's not real. So now we've paid. We can download our receipt. Boom. There it is. We have our receipt number. We paid by credit card on this day. That's how much we paid, and we don't owe anything. So we can save that to our files, print it out, whatever you want. All right, so let me go back here. Okay. You'll also be able to see a summary here. Now it'll show you amount paid, the 432, balance due, 0. So you know you're good for this year. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Alrighty, that's pretty much the registration and fee payment process. There are plenty of other things we can do on the site, especially if you want to upload any of your notices for any of your units. You do that in the action menu. If we want to update our rent amounts, or if we have an occupancy change, termination notice that happens, we can do all of that here on the site as we go out through the year. So I think that's really it. The only other thing that I want to show you is this overview tab. Because in here, this top section is what's searchable from the public, just so you know that they will be able to see the status of the registration. So because we've just completed our registration, it shows that registration is accepted. Because we paid our fee, it will say, yes, we've paid our fee. And then it will give information on previous years so people can know if you've been compliant in the past. So just be aware that that exists. If you want to search your address or other addresses, you can do that in the search bar. And then see, it's just this top bit because it's not our property, so we can't see any of their case history or any of the other information. We can only see this compliance bit. And again, this is fake, so I don't know the status of this property, but in our test site, this is the status. Alrighty. So hopefully that's really helpful. I'll finish out by just letting you all know how to contact us in case you need more one-on-one support. So here is our general contact information, our phone number, email, or our website. We have staff that speak Spanish. If that's better for you, or if you want to point any tenants towards our way. And then most importantly, I want to let you know about our office hours. So we do hold virtual office hours every single Tuesday and just Tuesday. Virtual office hours every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And this is the link here. Those are nice. They are one-on-one. So if you need help actually going through the registration process, we can do that together, and you can share your screen, or I can sort of log in and share my screen. So that's always really helpful. So hopefully we have a lot of people using that in January. The other thing we hold is a housing help center specifically geared towards landlords. If you want to come in person or on Zoom, you can do that. It's at our office is here at 298 Escuela, and this is every first and third Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. So we can sit down face to face and do this together if that's more helpful. Always, we like to promote our mediation program, and if there are any conflicts or issues between landlord-tenant, it's wonderful. If you have two tenants that need a little help, it's a wonderful resource to offer them. Totally free, totally confidential. Some legal resources here. And then finally, I'll leave this up while we log off. This is our general inbox, mvrent@mountainview.gov. Or you can email me directly, andrea.kennedy@mountainview.gov, or you can email us both at the same time, which I think is helpful because there are other people that can help you besides me. All right, I think that sums it up. So feel free to reach out to us. We're really hoping that the fee payment in the system is really going to work for people this coming year. We'd love to know your feedback about it, or if you run into any hiccups, it'd be really wonderful for us to be able to tweak the system to make sure it works as best as it can for you. And other than that, I hope you have a great day. Bye.